Revenge isn't always fire. Sometimes it's ice. You stop arguing. You stop defending. You stop giving them access to the version of you that bleeds. That's when the real revenge begins. Not when they feel your anger, but when they feel your absence. Because silence doesn't forgive. It erases. And in that quiet, they start to realize they were never the powerful one. Charisma is a mask. A weapon hidden beneath the curve of your smile, the rhythm of your voice, the subtle tilt of your head. You have learned long ago that influence is never shouted. It is whispered. It is offered like a gift, carefully measured. Never entirely yours, never entirely theirs. Most people never notice the invisible strings. They assume charm is natural, effortless, divine. But here's the cruel truth. Every smile you deploy, every laugh you share, is a calculated choice, an assertion of control disguised as warmth. You were never born charismatic. You were taught to survive. And survival requires hiding more than it reveals. The world mistakes kindness for weakness, attention for admiration. But you understand the paradox. Those who wield influence best wield it in shadows. Power is never flamboyant. Power is subtle, hidden, always observing. Look around. Observe the dynamics you've ignored for years. Notice the colleague who laughs at everyone's jokes, yet always leaves the room holding the cards. Notice the friend who seems overly empathetic, yet never asks for anything, but receives everything. They are not lucky. They are architects of perception. They are masters of the mask. And you too can learn this art, not by pretending to be someone you are not, but by understanding the hidden grammar of human interaction. Every glance, every pause, every small gesture can become a silent signal of authority. Consider the smile, the innocuous upward curve of lips, seemingly harmless, but notice how it shifts power. It disarms anger, it invites trust, it conceals strategy. People react instinctively, emotionally, often unaware of why. Your smile is now a lever. You can move others without them moving you. But mastery comes at a cost. Every mask you wear, every strategy you employ, requires detachment. You cannot fully feel the world as it is. You must observe, calculate, and act with measured precision. Control is never given. It is taken. Slowly, patiently. The room is full of people chasing noise, chasing recognition, desperate to matter. Meanwhile, you move silently through their world, leaving impressions, sowing influence, and never letting them know the depth of your design. The first lesson is always observation. Power hides in plain sight, in gestures that others overlook. The second lesson is restraint. Never reveal your full intent. Always leave room for doubt. And the third lesson, perhaps the most painful, is that those who trust easily give away their leverage. This is not cruelty. This is survival. Because the world does not reward charm. It rewards control. Your mask is not a lie. It is a shield, a lens through which others perceive you, and through which you see them. And so you practice silently, invisibly, your smile becoming more than a mere expression. It becomes a signature of authority, a subtle claim of dominance, a narrative that others unconsciously follow. Notice how they lean in when you speak. Notice how they mirror your posture, your tone, your inflection. Notice how the smallest gesture can shift decisions, redirect conversations, and bend outcomes to your favor. This is charisma in its most dangerous form. Not warmth, not charm, not charmless manipulation, but power elegantly disguised as human connection. Here's the final whisper for this part. Every interaction is a stage. Every smile, a line in a script only you have written. The actors believe they are free, but they are performing, responding to cues they will never consciously perceive. And that is when the mask truly becomes your weapon. Because the moment they stop seeing the person beneath, they start seeing only the influence, the subtle gravity, the pull of authority that you have crafted, without raising your voice, without asserting demand. This is your introduction to hidden power, a preview of the journey ahead. In the coming parts, you will see how trust can be weaponized, how silence can dominate louder than words, and how mastery of perception surpasses mere knowledge. Because in the world of shadows, charisma is never innocent. It is a tool, a mask, a lens, and when wielded correctly, it is indistinguishable from true power. You thought you understood people, that you could read them, predict their moves, anticipate their desires. Here's the cruel truth. Most of the world operates in denial. They resist reality not because it is hidden, but because it is uncomfortable. Every human carries a tension between instinct and intellect, between the heart that wants love and the mind that craves power. You watch them falter at small decisions, hesitate in moments of truth, cling to illusions that make life bearable. Emotion is a trap. It disguises itself as loyalty, as love, as honesty. But look closer, it is always transactional. Every tear, every smile, every silent nod carries a weight, and the scales rarely balance in favor of the innocent. You remember the friend who said, "I have your back," while plotting behind your trust. You remember the partner who whispered, "I love you," even as their mind calculated departure. The betrayal is not in the act, it is in the expectation. We are betrayed, always, by what we hope will be true. Observe the crowd around you. See the subtle strategies in the office, in friendships, in families. Notice how people avoid confrontation, how they speak in half-truths and implications, how they measure every word for risk, for reward. Conflict is not loud. It is quiet. It lives in the hesitation before a word, in the pause that allows manipulation to seep in. Every human is a battlefield of desire versus survival. They think emotion rules them, but in reality, fear does. Fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear of appearing weak. And this is where the strategist thrives. You understand that power is not about loud declarations, but about the patience to observe and wait for the right fractures. You watch them struggle with their contradictions, their longing for fairness against their instinct for advantage. You see the loyalty they offer is conditional, and you measure its limits carefully. The paradox is delicious. Those who appear most virtuous are often the easiest to influence, because their self-image blinds them to manipulation. They think morality protects them, when it is, in fact, a cage. And within this cage, you move freely. Every interaction becomes a subtle experiment. Watch a colleague receive praise. How do they behave when no one is watching? Observe a friend confide a secret. Do they guard it or weaponize it? Notice the people who demand empathy. Are they capable of giving it in return? The cruel rhythm of human nature is predictable. We all seek comfort. We all crave recognition. We all fear exposure. You have learned to use these rhythms, to see the invisible currents beneath every social exchange. Control does not come from force. It comes from understanding the subtle mechanics that most people never notice until it's too late. This is why silence is your ally. Speak less. Observe more. Watch the dance of honesty and deception, the interplay of kindness and exploitation. Let them reveal themselves through their choices, while you remain a constant, calm observer. It is tempting to act on every injustice, to correct every slight, to expose every lie. But restraint is a weapon far sharper than reaction. Every person's reaction can be predicted, measured, and leveraged, if only you allow the tension to exist, if only you resist the temptation to intervene. Consider loyalty. How often do people pledge allegiance only to abandon when circumstances shift? The world is fluid. Positions of power change. Circumstances shift. And yet, they cling to the illusion of stability, oblivious to the fact that their attachments are chains. You are different. You know that attachment is leverage. Every relationship carries a potential debt, emotional, social, psychological. And you learn to measure these debts carefully. You give trust sparingly, influence generously, and expectation rarely. This is the anatomy of conflict. It is not the dramatic fight. It is the quiet struggle within every human soul. their desire to act in accordance with principle versus their instinct for survival. Most people fail this test daily, and their failures create the openings you need to rise. The greatest power is not to crush others outright, but to move within their contradictions, to let their own hesitation and fear become the architects of your advantage. And yet, remember, you are not free of this paradox yourself. To observe, to strategize, to wield influence without being seen, requires the same detachment you demand of others. Your emotions, your desires, your loyalties must be carefully managed. You are both player and observer, actor and audience, mask and face. Here is the lesson of this part. Conflict is everywhere. Not in swords, not in words, but in expectation, in hope, in the invisible weights humans carry. Your mastery comes not from domination, but from understanding the battlefield within every mind, and navigating it with precision, patience, and poise. And that is the first truth about power. You cannot change the world of emotion. You can only learn to move within it, to turn hesitation into advantage, to let expectation betray itself, and to watch the dance of human nature unfold, while you remain untouchable, unseen, and calm. What they don't tell you is that human behavior is a map of invisible impulses. Every action, every hesitation, every glance is driven by triggers you rarely notice until you know how to see them. Consider the brain, a battlefield of instinct and reason, where every decision is a negotiation between fear and desire. Emotional triggers are the levers of influence. A compliment carefully timed can open trust. A pause, deliberate and weighted, can instill doubt. Even silence can force them to reveal their intentions. Humans are predictable not because they are stupid, but because they are programmed to seek validation, to avoid pain, to conserve energy. They operate under the illusion of free will, but every choice is influenced by social expectation, past experiences, and the hidden calculus of self-interest. You have learned to map these hidden calculations. Notice how someone bends slightly forward when flattered, how their eyes linger longer on those they respect, how body language betrays intention before a word is spoken. These are the markers of influence. They tell you more than any confession ever could. Manipulation is not coercion. It is not screaming or forcing action. It is subtle. It is invisible. It is planting seeds and letting them grow, so that the individual believes they acted of their own accord. This is the paradox of power. The more control you exert without being seen, the greater your influence becomes. Guilt is one of your most effective tools. Every human carries unspoken debts, regrets, and obligations. A well-placed reminder of past mistakes, delivered with precision, can compel behavior without overt threat. People act not because you demand it, but because they seek relief from the psychological pressure you've quietly applied. Fear is another invisible currency. Not fear of violence, that is obvious and easily resisted. Fear of loss, of exposure, of humiliation, is far more potent. You notice it in micro-expressions. A tightening of the jaw, a subtle glance away, the hesitation before a sentence is spoken. These small signals are the doorway to control. Consider the art of projection. Humans are quick to accuse, quick to assign blame, because admitting fault is psychologically costly. If you mirror their projections subtly, you can redirect their perception of reality, making them question their own motives, and bending them toward decisions that serve you. Influence also hides in reward and scarcity. A favor, a compliment, a rare gesture of attention, can create indebtedness and loyalty. Humans are wired to respond to reinforcement, but only if it is subtle, unpredictable, and psychologically tailored. Too much generosity feels fake. Too much attention feels manipulative. The art lies in calibration. Just enough to create attachment. Never enough to reveal your hand. Even trust is a weapon, if wielded properly. The moment someone confides in you, you hold a ledger of their vulnerabilities. This is not cruelty. It is observation. Every secret, every desire, every fear is a potential lever. And when used strategically, it can guide decisions, shape actions, and create an invisible hierarchy of influence in your favor. Real-world parallels are everywhere. Look at the office. The colleague who smiles more than necessary, who offers help only when advantageous, who listens patiently, stores information, and uses timing to maximize impact. They are not mere social butterflies. They are tacticians, mastering the psychology of engagement. Look at politics, at media, at social networks. Influence is orchestrated through subtle triggers, narrative framing, and emotional resonance. The masses respond predictably because emotions override rational calculation in moments of decision. And in these predictable patterns lies opportunity. Every human interaction is a laboratory. Observe, measure, calculate, and allow your insight to guide action. The goal is not domination for its own sake, but alignment, shaping reality so that outcomes bend toward you, while leaving others believing they acted freely. Even the act of listening is a strategy. People reveal far more than they intend in conversation. Pauses, contradictions, emphasis, avoidance. Every story they tell carries metadata about desires, fears, and intentions. Your task is to read between the words, to perceive the invisible architecture of influence they build unconsciously. And remember, your own mind is part of this design. You must remain detached, observing both yourself and others. Emotional investment clouds judgment. Overreaction reveals weakness. Mastery requires equilibrium. Empathy without vulnerability. Perception without attachment. Influence without exposure. This is why the mind becomes a weapon, not through knowledge alone, but through understanding the hidden rules of behavior and applying them with precision. Let's examine a paradox. Kindness is often the greatest manipulative tool. A gentle word, a listening ear, a calculated smile can disarm suspicion, inspire loyalty, and open gates. Those who mistake warmth for innocence are easy to guide. And yet, kindness alone is insufficient. It must be coupled with awareness, timing, and the subtle architecture of expectation. This is the anatomy of influence. Observation, restraint, emotional calibration, strategic application of fear, guilt, trust, and desire, all operating under the surface unseen, while your presence alone shifts the balance. Every human is a system of levers. Your task is to identify them, understand their weight, and apply gentle pressure. The reward is control, subtle yet absolute, and the thrill is in its invisibility. No one ever knows the extent of your power, because it is hidden behind the mask you wear so effortlessly. You think strength is visible. You think power announces itself in loud words, in grand gestures, in dominance displayed openly. But here's the cruel truth. Strength often hides behind silence, and power hides in restraint. The world mistakes noise for authority, emotion for intent, and activity for influence. You have learned better. Observe the one who says little, who smiles gently, who gives generously without fanfare. They are underestimated. The world measures power by aggression, by volume, by immediacy. Yet, the quiet strategist has already calculated the moves that will decide the outcome, while others argue over insignificant details. Kindness, when deployed without strategy, becomes weakness. But when paired with awareness, it becomes a mirror, reflecting the desires, fears, and motives of others back at them. Every act of generosity is a silent contract, not with words, but with subtle expectation. Those who fail to perceive the hidden terms are caught in the web, believing they act freely while their choices are already guided. You've seen it countless times. The friend who forgives too quickly, the partner who understands too easily, the colleague who helps without hesitation. Their hearts may be good, but their perception is blind. Their kindness becomes a doorway, an invitation for exploitation, a lever for control. And you, who has learned the rules, move through this world like a shadow, aware of openings where others only see comfort. Silence, the quiet absence of reaction, is your greatest ally. Pause is more powerful than a word. A withheld comment, a subtle refusal to engage in trivial arguments, can create tension, curiosity, and compliance simultaneously. People hate uncertainty. They crave closure, explanation, acknowledgement. By offering none, you make them act in alignment with your unseen will. There is a paradox in every interaction. Those who overcommunicate reveal their weaknesses, while those who withhold reveal their authority. Your absence becomes a presence. Your refusal to react becomes a force. The less they hear from you, the more they reveal themselves, and the more they reveal themselves, the more control you gain. Consider influence in relationships. It is not the loudest voice that guides decisions, but the one that observes, that listens, that calibrates. Kindness can be armor, deflecting suspicion. Patience can be a weapon, allowing others to exhaust themselves in reaction. Every pause, every measured response, every withheld judgment becomes a silent assertion of power. Even vulnerability can be strategic. Revealing a carefully chosen weakness can lower defenses, invite trust, and create influence without force. But it must be calculated. Too much vulnerability becomes exploitation territory for others. Too little renders you distant and unapproachable. The mastery lies in knowing when, where, and how to let the mask slip, and when to let silence speak louder than words. This is the reversal of perception. The traits that appear soft, passive, or generous often conceal the most potent form of power. Those who shout, who act quickly, who demand attention, they exhaust themselves. Those who wait, observe, and let others move first, they win invisibly, consistently, inevitably. Think of the social dynamics around you. Notice the colleague who never interrupts, yet always knows the outcome before it happens. Notice the friend who listens, yet subtly steers decisions with questions, not commands. Notice the partner who asks little, yet every word they speak lands with disproportionate effect. These are the masters of subtlety wielding influence, without anyone realizing they are being guided. Reversal teaches you another lesson. People project weakness onto kindness and silence because they equate volume with confidence and action with power. They cannot perceive that restraint is strength. They cannot see that patience is domination. And because they do not see, they miscalculate, leaving openings you exploit without a trace. Here is the philosophical insight. The mask is not only what you wear in public. It is the calibration of perception, the orchestration of expectation, the silent shaping of behavior without overt interference. To master influence is to master how you are seen, not by revealing, but by controlling what is visible and invisible. Every interaction now becomes a subtle test. You measure reactions. You gauge hesitation. You note emotional response. You let others believe they act of their own volition, while your silent architecture guides their choices. This is the art of reversal. The quiet, measured, strategic mind outmaneuvers the impulsive heart. The still observer outlasts the loud actor. The restrained kindness outshines the obvious aggression. Power, in its purest form, is invisible. It does not announce itself. It only shapes reality, silently, persistently, effectively. And remember this, the greatest mistake anyone can make in this world is to assume that what appears soft or kind is harmless. Softness can conceal steel. Patience can conceal calculation. Silence can conceal omnipresence. You have now learned the first reversal. What seems passive is often dominant. What seems gentle is often precise. What seems quiet is often omnipotent. And that is why your mask works. Because when they finally notice the influence, it is too late to resist. They have already moved in the direction you designed. The next part will show the awakening, where all these lessons converge, where understanding becomes mastery, detachment becomes strength, and perception becomes power. You have walked through shadows. You have seen the invisible currents of influence, the subtle levers of emotion, the hidden architecture of control. Now it is time to awaken to the truth. Knowledge alone does not make you powerful. power is forged in detachment, honed in patience, and tempered in silence. The world will continue to test you. People will lie, betray, and mislead, not always out of malice, but out of instinct, fear, and desire. You will notice their contradictions, their hesitations, their unspoken debts. And unlike them, you will no longer be unsettled. Your understanding shields you. Your observation arms you. Transformation begins with clarity. See yourself as both actor and observer. Detach from the need for approval. Detach from expectation. Embrace the fact that others will never fully understand your motives. And that is your advantage. Emotional intelligence is the final key. It is not about feeling more. It is about perceiving more. Notice the tension beneath a smile, the hesitation before a word, the subtle shifts in tone and posture. These are the instruments of influence, the whispers of intent. You respond not with reaction, but with precision. This awakening also demands ruthless honesty with yourself. Your weaknesses are visible only if you fail to observe them. Your attachments are chains only if you let them be. Every expectation you harbor from others is a vulnerability, and every desire unexamined is a lever they could use. Mastery requires balance. Empathy without vulnerability, awareness without obsession, action without noise. It is the quiet accumulation of leverage, the silent orchestration of outcomes, the gentle shaping of perception until your presence alone commands reality. Now imagine walking through life fully awake. Every interaction is a canvas. Every silence, a brushstroke. You move through rooms without announcement, yet leave impressions that linger, influence that persists. The world believes you are just like everyone else, yet your grasp of subtle dynamics sets you apart. You have learned the paradox of power. Control is not taken by force, but by understanding, anticipation, and invisible influence. It is not claimed by loud declarations, but by patience, observation, and strategic absence. You notice betrayal differently now. It no longer wounds you because you see it before it lands. You understand the fragility of trust, the subtle motivations that lead to loyalty or betrayal. You operate beyond reaction. Your decisions are guided by logic, insight, and the art of influence, not by emotion, fear, or expectation. And in this awakening, you become both cold and compassionate. Cold in the sense that you are untouchable to manipulation, aware of every hidden motive, immune to deception. Compassionate in the sense that you understand human contradiction, the fear, desire, and fragility that drives every choice. Your empathy is measured, your influence deliberate, your presence profound. Every person you encounter is now an open book. Not to exploit blindly, but to understand strategically. You anticipate decisions, guide behavior, and shape outcomes, while they believe they act freely. And in that belief lies your ultimate advantage. The mask you wear is no longer a disguise. It is a tool, a lens, a statement of presence. Your smile, your silence, your measured words, all become instruments of subtle power. You are no longer reactive. You are a conductor of the invisible symphony of human interaction. Here is the awakening in one truth. Power is not a position. Power is perception. It lives in the unseen, in the measured, in the deliberate. Those who chase recognition, status, or applause will always be manipulated by the unseen currents of emotion. Those who observe, calculate, and move silently will bend the currents themselves. You understand the anatomy of influence, the architecture of trust, the rhythm of emotion. You have mastered observation, restraint, and strategic kindness. You wield silence as a weapon, patience as a shield, and perception as a lever. You are no longer merely alive in the world, you are conscious of it, and in that consciousness lies power. The final lesson is simple yet profound. Do not mistake visibility for authority, noise for strength, emotion for truth. The world obeys subtlety. It yields to the patient. It bends under the hand that moves without announcing itself. And when you walk forward from this awakening, know this: the world will continue its chaos, its noise, its betrayal, its manipulation. But you will move within it like water through shadows, silent, inevitable, unstoppable. You are no longer just a participant. You are the unseen architect, the observer who shapes outcomes without exposure, the strategist who understands the mind, the heart, and the unspoken. And that is your transformation: wiser, colder, stronger, not because the world has changed, but because you have. And now, after walking through observation, strategy, restraint, and awakening, you stand at the edge of understanding. The journey was not about changing the world. It was about seeing it clearly, its contradictions, its hidden levers, its invisible architecture. What they don't tell you is that most people never see. They drift through life, blind to the patterns that shape them, trusting instincts, succumbing to emotion, believing in fairness, kindness, or truth as absolutes. But life is not absolute. Life is negotiation, strategy, and perception. You have learned the cruel beauty of human nature. Fear drives more decisions than reason. Desire dictates more action than logic. And the mind, when untrained, unobservant, unquestioning, is easily swayed, quietly guided, effortlessly controlled. Your transformation is now complete. You have learned to watch without being watched, to speak without revealing, to influence without being noticed. Every gesture you make, every silence you hold, every smile you offer carries weight. Remember, mastery is invisible. It does not seek applause. It does not shout. It moves quietly, like a shadow, altering outcomes, shifting perception, shaping reality. Those who measure power by volume, aggression, or visibility will never recognize the true strategist in their midst. The awakening has also taught you patience. People will continue to act unpredictably, to betray, to manipulate. You no longer react. You anticipate. Your calm becomes a force. Your presence becomes a gravity others cannot resist. And yet, you remain human. Your empathy, carefully measured, allows you to understand, even while your strategy guides without exposure. You know that people act according to fear, desire, and instinct, not because of malice, but because of their nature. This knowledge is both shield and weapon. Here is the final reflection. The world will never reward honesty, fairness, or kindness by default. It rewards strategy, observation, and control. Those who do not understand this remain trapped, exploited, and unaware of the invisible rules that govern them. But you who have seen, learned, and adapted, you now wield influence without announcing it, shaping outcomes without force, and navigating life with the precision of the unseen hand. Power is never loud. It does not demand. It does not boast. It moves silently, invisibly, persistently. And when the world believes it has control over you, that is when you hold the greatest advantage. Because they cannot resist the pull of what they cannot perceive. They cannot fight what they do not understand. And so you walk forward, wiser, colder, stronger, armed with insight, patience, and perception. The mask you wear is no longer a disguise. It is a lens, a shield, a weapon, and a declaration. And in that silence, you are truly powerful. The Machiavellian truth to carry forward asterisk. Asterisk power is not claimed by noise. It is taken quietly, one unseen move at a time. Asterisk. And that is the cruel beauty of strategy, the haunting elegance of influence, and the ultimate lesson of human nature. You are never powerless. If you learn to see what others cannot, and act when others hesitate, because control isn't taken by force. It is taken by patience, perception, and the art of invisibility.